Hey everyone, Scott here, and today I'm going to be talking all about Collector Selection Volume 2. It's just gone up for pre-order on the Premium Bandai website. If you're in the US, that's where you're going to be buying it from. In other parts of the world, you're going to have to buy it through your local game store. So the prices may vary, whereas in the US, since you're just getting it through Premium Bandai, it has a set price of $90. In this video, I'm going to be figuring out whether it is worth that $90 price tag or not. So the other kind of important things to note is that you have about 2 full months to pre-order it. I believe this is a longer pre-order window than there was in Volume 1. I think that one was only a few weeks, whereas this one's almost 2 months. And the other important thing to note is that the delivery month is going to be in April of next year. So when you're thinking about whether you want to buy one of these to get your hands on certain cards in there, you do have to keep in mind you're going to be waiting half a year from when the kind of pre-order closes to when it's actually released. It's going to be about 6 months, so you need to keep that in mind. You're not going to be getting your hands on the cards like next week or anything. There is going to be a significant wait, like there was with Volume 1. So I'm doing this part of the video before I've gone through and looked at all the prices of the cards in Collector Selection Volume 2, just because I wanted to give my kind of initial impressions and my kind of guess as to whether it's going to be worth that $90 price tag or not. And just based on the cards that have been chosen, I'm going to guess that it's barely going to be worth it. Volume 1, I think, ended up being the cards in there, the total value was like over $200. I think this one is going to barely be over 100, just because as I'm looking through these cards here, I'm seeing a lot that have already been reprinted, like Violent Ray's there. Charismatic Villain hasn't been reprinted, but there was already 2 versions, and Set 10 is getting a second printing next month. Heroic Prospect, we had the Player's Choice version. Brainwash No More was in the event pack. Saiyan Synergy, there was 2 versions of that card as well. There was like a winner's version. And these super combos here from set 9, these are like uncommons, so they're going to be dirt cheap in terms of like the value total. Even Soul Striker Reborn, the reboot leader, that was given out as pre-order prizes and as part of the sweepstakes giveaway, where you got this and the unison that goes with it and some Digimon cards as well. So even that card has been distributed twice, so I'm not anticipating that this is going to be as value for money as the first volume, but I guess we'll have to wait and see in the second part of the video, which I'll be going over to now. So what exactly are the rules that I'm going to be using to kind of measure whether or not this Collector Selection Volume 2 is actually worth it? So the first is I'm only going to be taking into account the cost of the cards. So things like sentimental value, or whether a certain character might be a favourite in all of Dragon Ball. Not going to be taking that into account, like maybe Zamasu there is your favourite character and you really like the artwork on this reprint. Obviously that's going to be different for every person, so I'm not going to be able to take that into account. The second is I'm going to be assuming we want 1 copy of every card, because obviously the collector selection comes with 1 copy of every card. For it to be a fair comparison, we have to assume that if we were going to buy them as singles, we would get 1 of each card. Because again, which cards people want or don't want is going to vary from person to person, so I can't really take that into account again. I'm going to be using Card Market and TCG lowest available prices, so that also means the lowest cost version of a card. I'm going to assume that we are interested in these cards purely from the standpoint of playing the game. That's primarily what I do. I play the game. I do collect certain cards, but again, it's that thing of, if you just want the cards because the artwork is nice, that's not really something that can put a price on really at this point. Obviously once these sets are released, you could then put a price on each of the cards individually in the set, but we can't really do that now this far in advance during the pre-order window. Also not going to be taking resale value into account for the same reason. Maybe you could buy this for $90 and then sell off the cards you're not interested in, but we just don't know what these actual version of the cards are going to be worth once it's actually released in 6 months' time, or 7 months' time from now, April of next year. So number 5 is going to be using the cheapest available English version of the card. That means even on Card Market, the prices I'm going to be showing aren't for like French versions or Italian versions of the cards. They are all going to be for English versions of the cards. And finally, the prices are correct as of the day that I'm making this video, which is September the 3rd, 2021. So let's just jump in and start to look at the first card. So first up we have Violent Rays. So over on the left we have the European version, the Card Market version, which is €15, and that actually is for the tournament pack reprint, the same as the US version over there on the right from TCG Player. It's just there's not a separate listing for that version of the card on Card Market, so that's why it's showing the original SR art. And also one thing to point out is as we go through, down in the bottom right I have like a running total, both for the European cost and the American cost. Violent Rays €15, $20. And then we have Son Goku, Hope of Universe 7. So one interesting thing to point out about this card is fairly recently it was limited down to 1, which means if you were interested in getting more than 1 copy of the Collector's Selection Volume 2, this is a card that you're going to end up with extra copies of, copies that you're not going to be able to use. And also, just it's the one card that this happened with was this one here on Card Market. It just would not show the English price, it just kept showing the French price, so I had to put the English price in there manually, which is €6. And this is another card that does actually have an SPR version, although the SPR version is one of the signature cards, which are all insanely expensive. So if I wasn't using the cheapest version available, those grand totals would be up over 1,000 already. That's just how insanely expensive the signature cards are at the moment. Next up we have Frieza Charismatic Villain. This was actually a lot more expensive than I remember it being. I think I picked up a playset right as Set 10 was released for like, I think it was €40 total. So the price has gone up to the point that that would only get you 2 copies of the card. And it has a similar kind of price over in America at the moment. Then we have Son Goku, Nimbus Master. One of the more expensive cards to come out of Giant Force. I know the other big expensive card from that set is the Demigra that's getting reprinted as well in the anniversary box this year. So yeah, this is a card that's just really good in skillless decks. There's a few of those around at the moment, so I know a lot of people will be happy to get their hands on copies of this card. Then we have launched the Pure Hearted. Not really a lot for me to say about this card. It's one that sees play in the launch deck. I know the people that play that launch deck will probably be happy to have fancy alternate art version of the card. Next up we have Super Saiyan 2 Trunks Heroic Prospect. So this is actually will be the 5th time that this card has been printed, each time with a different artwork. We had the original promo version, then there was the winner's version that came out at the same time, then the Player's Choice version, which is the one we have over on the right on TCG Player. Then there was the Event Pack version, which is the one that is on the left, the Card Market. Again, there wasn't a separate page for the Event Pack version, so I'll just note that that price there, the €2.50, is for the Event Pack version. And then we'll have this new Collector Selection Volume 2 version, so that'll be the 5th printing, 5th artwork of this card. And it was first released just over a year ago, in July of last year. So within, like I say, just over 12 months, they've announced 5 different printings, different artworks for this card. So I think this has now leapfrogged Scientist Fu to become the card with the most different alternate arts in the game. Scientist Fu, I believe, has 4 with his printing in Collector Selection Volume 1. So now Trunks has gone past that. So next up we have Mass Saiyan Brainwash No More. In both cases, it's the Event Pack 8 version. So this is another card like the Trunks we were just looking at that has just been reprinted in the event pack. For some reason on Card Market it just did not have the event pack artwork. There was just no image there, and TCG Player was just using the original promo version artwork. But these are the prices both for the event pack 8 version of the card. Next up we have Mech Freezer Robotic Riposte. It's a Championship 2021 card and it's already been reprinted. Interesting to point out how much more expensive it is in America than in Europe. I remember there was a card in Collector's Selection Volume 1. I think it was the Surge Broly leader that was weirdly more expensive in the US for whatever reason. And it seems like in this set it's the Freezer that kind of fills that role. Then we have Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta Martial Melee. This is another Tournament Pack promo card that was released alongside a winner's version. So this alternate art version in Collector's Selection will be its third printing. Next up we have Son Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Synergy, same as the Gogeta I was just talking about. This is another one that already had like a fancy winner's version. So if you already wanted a like fancier version of this card, foil version of the card, there was already one out there. So yeah, most of the cards in this set that are being reprinted that are already like fancier versions than just like the standard version. And this Goku and Vegeta is another one of them. Then we come to all the super combos that I talked about in the first part of this video. Going to be looking at the prices of the common versions because those are the lowest available. So across both websites they're just really cheap. They're not going to add much to the running total down there at the bottom. First up we have the Nappa. Then we have the Zamasu, which I think is the one that still sees the most play out of all of them. Gets used a lot with the Bojack, the rival blue-yellow Bojack. Actually, I think there's two of them that you can rival out, two Bojacks with blue-yellow arrival. Then we have the Whis, which is one that I don't really think I've ever seen anyone use. I mean, in terms of like red-yellow arrival cards, there was that baby deck back in like set 8, but that kind of fell off, and I don't think I ever saw anyone using this super combo in that deck. Then we have Android 18 Bionic Blitz. Pretty good card for hand destruction decks. Still see some play in kind of green hand destruction decks. Then we have the Beerus, which saw a lot of play in Invoker. I also saw it get some play in Cooler as well. Works really well with the red-blue Cooler, 5-cost Cooler with red-blue arrival. Then we have Dr. Gero, Progenitor of Terror. This one I've been seeing a lot lately, just because it's a really good way to get cards you need in the drop. Green or yellow ones like Zarbon, the Ribrianne, or even the Draw 2 Ape, Saiyan Instincts. Yeah, some people will be happy to get another fancy version of this card. Obviously, all the super combos already had the SPR from the set 9 where they were originally released. But I guess this is just another alternate art foil version that they'll be out there. These super combos aren't necessarily the ones I would have chosen if I was the design team, because these super combos were all chosen by the design team. So it's not even like in the first set where we had a lot of leaders being reprinted, but they were all in the player choices, player voted cards. So you couldn't really kind of blame the design team for them. But these ones you obviously can, because they've been chosen specifically by the design team. Then we have Energetic Frenzy Kefla. Not quite sure what deck uses this card. I think maybe it's being used as a finisher in blue, maybe? I could be wrong on that. But I guess hopefully if there's maybe some support for either like a blue or a blue-yellow Universe 6 deck going forward in the next few sets, perhaps, this could be one that people will be really happy to get their hands on. And finally, the only leader in this set, which I think is the one good thing about all the cards that were chosen this time, there's only one leader in here. As someone who ended up with multiple copies of Volume 1, it did suck that I was kind of paying for like 4 more copies of leaders that I already had. So there's only going to be one leader in there this time, which is this Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, Son Goku, Soul Striker Reborn. So yeah, that brings us to the final values. And so, in terms of euros, we're just shy of €100, like literally 91 cents off, whereas in the dollar total, we're a bit higher because there was quite a few cards there that were more expensive in terms of dollars than euros, in particular like the Freezer Negate. So for the dollar total, we have $153.41. In terms of, is Collector Selection Volume 2 worth $90? The answer is yes, it is. It's worth $153.41, or at least that is what you would have to pay to get one copy of each of the cards being reprinted in the set. Although the big difference is, if you were to pay that now, you would have the cards now, whereas these alternate art reprints aren't going to be out until April of next year. So that is the one big thing to keep in mind, is prices can change between now and next April. And a lot of things could change in terms of how desirable some of these cards are going to be in the intervening 6 months, 7 months. So an example from Volume 1 would be Super Saiyan 4 Goku, A Heartfelt Plea. In between when that card was announced to be in Collector Selection Volume 1 and when Volume 1 was actually released, that card got added to the limited list. It's limited now to 1 copy per deck, which again, it wasn't when it was first announced to be in Volume 1. So there might have been people out there who bought multiple copies of Volume 1 just to get their hands on a full playset of Heartfelt Plea. And maybe they were thinking of just sending on the rest of the cards to try and make their money back. And then now they've ended up with 4 copies of card they only need 1 copy of. Obviously, in this Volume 2, there's already a card in there that we know is limited to 1, which is the Goku, Hope of Universe 7. So that already kind of puts a dampener on the idea that you would buy multiple of these, because you will just end up with extra copies of Goku that you just don't need. And that could happen to other cards on this list. They could get limited, they could get errated, they could get banned. There's also the fact that there's going to be a few sets released between now and when this Volume 2 comes out. So some of the cards that are really good reprints now, like, say, Charismatic Villain, they could make, in the intervening sets, there's going to be at least 2-3 main sets between now and then. They could quite easily make a better green counterplay, to the point that people just don't run Charismatic Villain anymore. Obviously, that is something we have to kind of guess at. It's potentially that could happen. Obviously, it could not happen. They could just not print any more really good green counterplays, and Charismatic Villain is still great next April, the way it is now. But that's just something you're going to have to take the risk of if you want to pre-order the set now. The prices on these reprints could go up, they could go down, they could just hold flat. We really don't know. So that is the one thing you need to keep in mind. If you're going to give Bandai your $90 now, you may end up with something that isn't worth that much by the time it's actually released. So as much as a sure thing as it seems now, that you're getting more for your money than what you're paying, that might not be the case come April. And so that's going to be it for this video. If you found it useful, go ahead and leave a like. That really helps me out. If you want to be notified when more videos come out on the channel, go ahead and subscribe now. And thanks for watching.